one of the things that I know also, because I'm licensed in Washington, D.C., Virginia, Maryland, and now Florida, just in D.C., Maryland, and Washington, D.C., it was always so different. But New York, and specifically New York City, is very different than the rest of the country as just plain old real estate transactions, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Welcome to the Jennifer J. Hammond Podcast. Jennifer is a licensed realtor, educator, speaker, and best-selling author. Jennifer's goal is to help you find your yay in every day.
Hello, it's Jennifer J. Hammond. And I'm so excited. I have Taliya Bashani here today. She is a real estate attorney, but boy, we're talking a negotiation expert like you've never heard of. She is in New York City. So she helps residential real estate buyers, sellers, and developers in New York City. She started her law practice, TAB Law Firm, PC, over 14 years ago and has closed over 10,000 properties. And that translates into over 1 billion in real estate sales. So welcome to the show, Talia.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. Now, one thing that really makes you different from most, not only real estate attorneys, but anyone who's in the real estate field, is that you are passionate about being an educator. You actually go into the field and teach, we call them CE for short, but our continuing education classes. So will you talk about, number one, why you do that? And number two, what are some of the classes that you teach?
Absolutely. Thank you. So I love giving back to the agents. I love educating and bringing value to them. So honestly, people ask me all the time, if I wasn't a lawyer, what would I do for my career? I would be a teacher, or a law school professor. I just love to teach. My mother was a teacher. I just feel like it's in my blood. So over the last 10 years, I've developed probably about 20 continuing education classes. I host monthly seminars or webinars that give agents two CE credits. And it's really to help agents become better negotiators, kind of learn the business more, close more deals, increase their closing percentage, and sell more real estate. So I love it. I really do. It's truly my passion. I do it for free, just to give back. And some of the classes that I've taught, or I still teach, is representing investors, 1031 exchanges, seal the deal, how to win exclusive listings, creative negotiation tools and strategies, new developments versus condos versus co-ops, real estate transactions from A to Z, closing costs, breakdown, financing. So it's just a slew of real estate topics that really help the agents increase their knowledge and increase their experience in the real estate world.
And I'm so grateful that you do that, because so often, and you know this, a lot of times when people get licensed as a real estate agent, there isn't really any training. There's not like a set path. Like if you go in and you're an auto mechanic, or there's so many other fields where there's a very specific path. And so I want to say all real estate agents are not the same, and their training hasn't been the same. And so having that and giving back, I just have to say thank you for doing that, because we need you. We need you. All of us who are real estate agents do. And I know one of the things that I know also, because I'm licensed in Washington, D.C., Virginia, Maryland, and now Florida, just in D.C., Maryland, and Washington, D.C., it was always so different. But New York, and specifically New York City, is very different than the rest of the country as just plain old real estate transactions, right?
Yes, absolutely. New York is a different breed. The first distinguishing factor is that we are an attorney state, not a title state. So the attorneys prepare and draft the contract. We, facilitate the financing process with the mortgage lender. We review and clear title, and then we act as settlement agent at the closing table. So it's a vastly different process than in most title states within the country, where the agent or the broker does everything. They really literally drive the deal to the finish line. So I think New York does that only because there's such a vast amount of real estate, and there's, over 6 million million people, and there's co-ops, condos, single, multifamilies, new construction. There's so many different types of property. So it's really to safeguard the consumer. And it also helps kind of like take the onus off of the agent. So the agent does the showings, they negotiate the price, and then the attorneys pick up the deal and run with it and get us to closing.
Well, and I'm going to go a little bit down a side street in this, but it's something that I would love for you to define something that I can't believe how many times people don't have it confessed. I'm going to say confessed to me that they don't know the difference. Will you talk a little bit about the difference between a condo and a co-op? Because New York City is very unique. I mean, in DC, we have condos and co-ops, and some other cities do, but it is very different in New York City, right?
Yes, correct. So I would say it's about a good 50-50, across the board. A lot of my closings tend to be more co-ops than condos, mainly because one, there's more inventory. Two, you get a better bang for your buck. So co-ops are priced lower than a majority of the condos, but they also come with more restrictions, right? So more subletting restrictions, board package and approval restrictions, financing restrictions. Some of them, they say, hey, you can't finance more than 70% if you want to be in this building. So it's really strict. And with a co-op, you are purchasing shares in a corporation or securities as opposed to real property. So you get a stock certificate and a proprietary lease as your ownership documents, as opposed to a deed like you would with a house or a condo. So it's very different. And so the process is a little bit more convoluted, which is why, we attorneys really are the ones to kind of manage that process for the clients. Now, the agent still focuses on the board application, board interview, board approval process. But that way it's a team effort. We're all working to make sure we get it to the closing table.
And I appreciate that so much, because that was a great way to explain the differences. And it's just unique. So, again, I really want to get through some of these other topics. So one thing that's happened, right now, I know we date ourselves if we say this, but we're in the fall of 2023. Talk about the biggest challenge that you're seeing in real estate in New York City right now.
Sure. So what I'm finding is that the inventory is so low in the sweet spot. So the sweet spot in New York City real estate is $1 to $4 million. So I'm not talking about the deals below 500K, and I'm not talking about the multi-million properties, 10 million and above. It's really 1 to 4 million. And there's so many buyers looking for properties that fall within this price range. And there's so little inventory because sellers are not in a position right now to sell and downsize and pay the exact same price that they would, carrying cost wise, compared to where they're at. So they're like, why should I sell? I still have a 4% interest rate, and I'm still sitting in my 3-bedroom or whatever have you. And there's no reason to sell. So we're getting a lot of bidding wars. So many of my clients, I had 3 clients call me last week saying, hey, I'm making my final and best, get ready for the deal sheet. I really hope this one sticks. And then all 3 of those clients called me 2 days later, like, I got outbid, I didn't win the bid. And it's just so disgruntling because, these clients, these buyers are being put through the ringer. And it's really the biggest challenge because they want to buy and they're ready to buy. But there's just not enough inventory to go around. So a lot of deals, are just, dying for these buyers.
Yeah, and it's interesting because every market's different, and just like you said, in Washington D.C. it's different, but it's also very price sensitive depending on its location, of course, but it's also very, very price sensitive. So let's talk a little bit about that condo market, how to navigate the luxury condo market in New York City, because again, New York City is unique, even if you compare it to some of the local, I want to say local, the Boston or DC, it's still a very different market. So how do you navigate that?
Sure. So with the luxury condo properties, it comes down to really satisfying both sides. Okay. Because when you have a lot of money, you tend to want to get whatever, it's a little harder to please. And if you're paying top dollar, you have higher demands, right?
Yep.
So it's that finesse. It's really how to negotiate to meet, both parties. Now, what I try and do is I call them deal sweeteners. So every deal, you can sweeten the deal by virtue of negotiating items of personal property. Like some properties are already staged, with high-end staging. And a lot of times my client, if I'm representing the buyer, might love, all of the furniture and the staging and want to make an offer. But what I say, hey, seller, will you throw in the staging if we come up to 5 million? So that's a deal sweetener. Items of personal property. Let's say there's no staging and then the seller is still living there, but the seller is coordinating their sale with their purchase, and they need a little bit more time to stay in the property. So we negotiate a post-closing possession period. And we say, hey, seller, if you accept our lower offer, maybe it's priced at 5, but we come in at 4.75. If you accept our offer, we'll let you stay in the property up to 30 days as a free lease back to coordinate your purchase smoothly. This really avoids like Airbnb or interim rentals for the seller. To do 2 moves, having to put their property in storage, and that convenience alone is priceless. So it's really trying to appease both parties and making sure everyone's happy at the end of the day, because nobody likes to give up something for nothing. They want to feel like they're getting something of value.
And I was going to say, and I would say one of the things I've learned with any negotiating is really learning how to communicate. And I'm going to take it all the way back to one of the things I learned early in my career is that everybody communicates differently. And you need to ask, okay, so is this somebody who likes to communicate through a phone call, through a text message, through an email? Because again, everybody communicates a little bit differently, but make sure that you're doing real communication, and then you can actually do your negotiating, because so often you assume something and then you could really go down the wrong rabbit hole, right?
Right, exactly. And it's all about how you spin it, right? So when you are presenting a proposal to the client, you want to spin it in the most positive light possible.
Yeah.
You don't want to go in with negative Nancy and be like, oh my gosh, the seller's not budging. I don't know if we're going to be able to pull this off. I don't know. This probably might not work. No, that's not how you address it. You come, hey, the seller's, we're really trying hard. The seller here wants to work with you. We want to make a deal. They're willing to do A, B, and C. I think that's very reasonable under the circumstances. This is a great property. We'd hate to lose it over $100,000. Let's see what we can work out. So it's all about how you present and communicate, like you said, to your client, to make sure that you're facilitating the deal and getting it to contract and to closing.
Yeah, and what you said earlier is also just asking the question, what is it that's most valuable? Because also, and I want to say that word, assuming, oh, well, the seller's going to want more time to move. Well, maybe not.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's that they don't care about the, whatever thing you might find useful in that. Maybe it's a weird corner or something, and they've got this perfect piece of furniture that fits in that corner, but maybe that was an heirloom from a family or something. So don't assume that you know what would be best for them. Ask and communicate that, right?
Exactly. And also ask them what's in order of priority, right? Like what's most important to you? What's least important to you? Because what we might think is, may be completely different. They might not even care about that, so 100%. I always say, look, what's your top priority here? What do you want to make sure, we achieve? Because that's what I'm going to focus on. I'm not going to waste my time and energy on the things that they don't care about, because what if I go fighting for something that really doesn't matter to them? And they're like, well, I didn't care about that. So what if he's throwing in the chandelier? I have my own Baccarat chandelier. I don't need it.
Like, right.
So
exactly. So are there any other secrets to closing more deals in New York City right now?
Well, what I always say, and what, I have this new program and this new online course and coaching business that I'm launching. So what I always say to a lot of agents out there is go after the sellers. Focus on targeting and winning more exclusive listings. This is the best chance that you have to maximize your commission. for a few reasons. One, that seller is going to turn into a buyer. Maybe they're moving out of the city. Maybe they're moving to Westchester or to the burbs. Now you get to close both sides of the deal. Maybe at your open house or, appointments that you're scheduling, you get a direct buyer with no agent. Now you collect your dual agent and you collect both sides of the commission. Or what if that direct buyer that comes through may not be interested in your particular listing, but you say, hey, I'm a territory expert. I've sold so many properties in this neighborhood and in this area. I can show you other listings that meet your parameters. Now you just picked up a new buyer. So instead of agents running around with buyers who are getting outbid, losing the deal, or are not, pulling the trigger, because I also had 3 clients this week back out. I got them all the way to the point of contract. One has personal reasons, another one doesn't like the neighborhood anymore, another one, they're so indecisive, and these poor agents are just like, man, I just spent 4 months or 6 months with this buyer. We finally get to accepted offer, and now they're backing out. So all of that time and energy and resources are really valuable for agents. So I always say, go after the exclusives. That's when you have the greatest potential to make the most money and maximize your commission.
I am so grateful for you today. Thank you so much for being here. So tell people a little bit about, I know you have an upcoming book coming out, and also just how to get a hold of you, how to find out about your courses, anything you want to share.
Thank you so much. So yeah, my upcoming book is due to drop next month. It's called Win the Listing, Secrets to Become a 7-Figure Realtor. And it really is the blueprint or a roadmap on everything soup to nuts that you need to win more exclusive listings. My coaching program is also launching by the end of the year, where I'm going to be hosting monthly webinars for agents, both private and group, to really help facilitate more deals for agents and kind of give them that legal edge, that they really need to become super successful and increase their GCI. And to reach me directly, you can go to my 360 site, which is tali360.com. That's TALI360.com. You can download my full business V card, so you have all my contact info, and it'll take you to my YouTube channel with my Real Estate Powerhouse podcast, all my social media, everything that I'm doing is on that 360 site. So thank you so much, Jennifer. I really appreciate you having me today.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. And as you know, I'm always looking for the yays in today. So I'm going to ask you to lift your voice and say yay with me as we go off the air. Is that okay?
That's okay. Yes.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Jen.